Good morning. Excellent, excellent. Double B. We got a good morning from Sunny Slope, Arizona. Good morning from Arizona, Double B. You're up early. Be careful. Someone might call you a white supremacist. Morning, boys and girls. That thumbnail looks like the Jumanji movie. That's true, huh? Yeah, I didn't think of that. T-Dog Yo-Yo. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Gray Fur. Cheap sats today. They are cheap. Cheaper than usual. Good morning. These covered images are great. Thanks, Nick Tabs. I like the titles too. The titles usually I'm pretty happy. I like the quiet quitting observation today. Good morning. Oppenheimer was underwhelming. Tommy letting us know yesterday that he went to Oppenheimer. Just okay. Maybe just not all what I was expecting. Not at all what I was expecting. Yeah, I'm still haven't seen it. Agree. Popcorn Gray First says very propaganda-y. Yeah, I bet it is. Not a good morning when you are out of dry powder. Yeah, I was kind of lamenting that today too. I'm in the same boat as you. It is Friday. We are going to do our best to buy some Bitcoin today, but we are not. We're not flowing in U.S. shit tokens right now. Good morning. I agree, and then go a little further by saying Oppenheimer was 3 hours of life I won't get back. That is my best feedback. Yeah, I haven't seen it yet for that reason. I was happy enough with Barbie. It was like 2 hours and great. It was a lot of fun. I think I'm gonna wait for Flash to be free on HBO, and I gotta cancel all these streaming services. I just got noticed that the Amazon is not Amazon. YouTube is going up for monthly premium subscription. That's my favorite one. I love the YouTube. No ads, can download stuff. So with everything going up by a couple bucks this month, I think I'm just going to double down on YouTube and stick with that. But because I got the Disney and I got the Netflix and I got the HBO, so I think 2 of them get cut. 2 or 3. I got kids though, so there's a couple shows they like here and there, but I think Disney, I'm done with it. All right, who cares about streaming crap? Good morning. What's up, Robert? Good morning, Bitcoiners. CK. Good morning, fam. Indeed. Good morning, Time Chainers. I like that one. Time to sell some chairs. Yeah, it is that time. Morning, sir. Morning, Dan. You're coming at us from California, if I'm not mistaken. That makes you wicked racist. Chairs, sell them. Get the money. Got to go back to the drawing board and learn something to make yeah. Gotta get some new skills. I might go apply for a job at a coffee shop today, just to have an excuse to get some cash to buy some sats. I'm not really going to do that, obviously. Smash the like for cheap sats. It could happen. There is time for everything. Now it's Moscow time. Indeed, it is Moscow time. Quiet or quit. Both. Did I not say quit? No. Capenta, you've let me know that my headline is poorly written. No, it's supposed to be quiet quitting. Shit, it ruined the joke. Capenta, you did a good job letting me know. But that sucks. Shit. Sorry, guys. It's supposed to be, I'm trying to make the point, the clever point that Biden has quiet quit. And I didn't get to do it. But let's just, acknowledge we got a sunrise, right? And we got Bitcoin running. So let's talk about what's new, right? And I have just a sip of coffee here. But it was a real sip. I did not scam you. I had a real sip. It was the last sip. I saved it. I didn't have time to make a new one. I had to go out and get coffee this morning because I ran out. All right, let's get to some. And by the way, today is going to be a bit of a short one. I've got to go do a spaces at the top of this hour. So I'm going to need about 10 minutes to turn it around. So shorter one today. We're not going to be going a full hour or anything like that, probably 45 minutes. But let's get right into the fakest news I could find today. We got plenty of time for fake news. So this is the insider paper alert. WHO and U.S. health authorities say they are closely monitoring a new variant of COVID-19. The variant has been detected in Israel, Denmark, and the United States. Everyone, be careful. This is when a medical school professor, feminist, says trans kids identifying as minotaurs are part of the gender revolution. So there you go. Jevi can let us know if this is really shaking things up over in Minnesota. Minneapolis Art Center slammed for encouraging family-friendly demon summoning. So I mentioned this the other day, but people still talking about the demon summoning, and families were in fact invited to create a vessel to trap the demon. Okay, so there you go. And here's our favorite subgenre. Moscow time. Remember we had all the ones for Sound of Freedom, right? A subgenre of Moscow time. Of course, Richmond, north of Richmond, is creating the same reaction. So we love compiling all of these Moscow time headlines about Oliver Anthony. And so here, The Guardian with this one: Richmond, north of Richmond, punches down. No surprise. The right wing loves it. No surprise, everyone. No surprise. It punches down. And this one's great. This is going to get us started today. This is both fake news and the start of our real news. So Hunter Biden's tax charges dismissed by Delaware federal judge after sweetheart plea deal falls through. No punchline needed. No punchline needed. We're all good. So indeed, the tax charges against Hunter Biden have been limited or thrown out, right? And with it, I think one of the most valuable assets the world has ever known, which is the credibility of the U.S. justice system. It's just gone, right? Who cares? They protected Hunter, no big deal. The U.S. justice system, which generally was the reason why a lot of people got involved in business in America in the first place because of the predictability of our legal system, have now decided, who cares, right? Whatever, let it go. And again, you remember and of course it was a Delaware judge, right? So that is even the best part of it. Of course, everyone suspicious anyway that the Biden family has turned Delaware into the most banana-y part of the Banana Republic. And so it's kind of perfect, because he's been there since the 70s in Delaware as their senator, that now a federally appointed Delaware judge is the one who gives the sweetheart deal to Hunter. It's kind of perfect, right? If it would be another state, if it would have been like California or, just any other place that gave Hunter the sweetheart deal, it would have been like, well, maybe he really didn't do something or something. He'd at least have that chance. But because he's from Delaware, it's absolutely perfect. So now, the president, of course, getting criticized for Hawaii reaction, getting criticized for taking yet another vacation this week, right? And remember what I said months ago, that it was kind of beautiful that the punishment that Biden got by winning the presidency while his mental capacity is diminishing was kind of perfect, right? You don't really want him to be necessarily ignored or anything like that, right? Having him front and center, having him in the limelight is kind of funny in a sense, because we see the degradation day after day, and watching him try to wrestle with these really complicated problems is pretty hilarious, because we can tell the mental capacity and the cognition are just not there. And the funniest part of it, though, is that because all of this stuff was concocted, probably years ago, without too much ability to predict what the potential outcomes were, it seems like the Democrats have found themselves in a rock and a hard place with Kamala and Joe. Because the big unknown here is really just how degraded Joe Biden's mind is. It looks pretty bad to me from the outside. And that's why I think even if you look at last weekend and if you look at what's going on now, he's sort of being told, it's just my guess, I'm completely guessing here, right? But I'm going back to understanding what goes on behind the scenes in politics and understanding, how messages go up to the big guy in any instance, right? So bringing a leader bad news is never an easy thing. I remember in the last days of the Harper administration in Canada, when I was there, it was almost impossible to connect with him. Everyone knew it was over. And he just became this was in Canada when I worked in the Senate. He just kind of became estranged from everyone who would give him good advice otherwise, right? So I was never able to reach him. The normal avenues of communication that I had to reach the prime minister were melted at that time. So what happens in these instances, and it's just my guess, right? But the whole thing about going to Rehoboth Beach last week while the Maui thing was going on, and then he said no comment, and then more vacation now. It looks like, this is me guessing, okay? We're entering a absolute guessing phase right now. But here's what I see. I don't think they can actually pump him with drugs to even get an hour out of him anymore. That's just what that totally my opinion, right? I'm not going on anything else but what I see. I could be wrong. But it looks like they can't really get much out of him anymore. And it looks like with all the trouble happening with Hunter and what's going on with all that, you remember it's been a few weeks now that I've predicted that Joe is just off the board, right? We don't have to consider him as we go forward. It's over, right? And I continue to think that way. And I do believe in the past week, summer vacation, it's sort of supposed to be a lull. This is kind of when the people tell him, Joe, it's over. Like, you're not going to be the guy in 2024. We can't prop you up, right? We can't give you enough drugs. The hologram machines aren't going to be ready. The AI isn't going to be ready to take care of all of your deficits, right? The camera tricks that people are seeing everywhere aren't going to work anymore. You're done, right? So it's just my belief, right? You're in 100% speculative territory here. But in my imagination, this was the time to tell him, right? This was the time to tell Joe it's over. And that's what I see. I see quiet quitting, right? This phenomena of quiet quitting that we see all over the place. I think that's what Joe has done. I think it's been a quiet quit of the job of president. Now, that's kind of a good thing, right? Because remember what I've been mentioning for a long time, the thing that appealed to me most about Trump was changing the job description of president from leader of the free world, and the buck stops here and all that stuff, right? Well, the buck did stop there, right? Literally, and if you don't know, the buck stops here, the expression was invented by Harry Truman, and he put it on his desk, and literally said the buck stops at the desk of the president. And I think that's entirely 100% true. And just as the president, as the leader of the free world, because the job we understand of as president, right, is an organic thing. It grew into that in order to win the world wars. And then we just never stopped practicing the job in the way that it became practiced in order to win World War II. So the job description that came out of World War II, right, when the supreme commander of Allied forces Eisenhower took over, he inherited what Truman had set up. The buck stops here. Right? The buck did stop there. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So watching this job, which was at once synonymous with the title leader of the free world, to see it degraded to this point really lets us know we are in a new world and things are changing. So go back to the the Joe Biden and Kamala thing, right? So this is the prediction that they must have made years ago. Okay, we're going to go with Joe and we're going to go with Kamala. And in case Joe gets into any trouble, Kamala's not bad, right? But as time went by, people have now realized that Kamala is not a viable candidate, right? Now, again, you're in complete rumor, speculative territory, but something's up with her, either alcoholism or I don't know. I just can't tell, but it looks like some form of substance abuse is going on. She cannot speak clearly. She's incapable. She is less capable of saying a sentence than he is, which is insane, right? I heard her the other day again, giggling and laughing about who knows what. So here's the problem, right? Just 1 second. Sorry, the walls are very thin in these houses, so I can hear everything out there. And my kids are on their way to their last day of camp this week, so I'm just asking them to be a little bit quiet while we go on. So this idea then that the whole apparatus, right, sitting there trying to manage and balance this leader of the free world job with one brain that's incapable. And oh, I'm not muted anymore, am I? Am I still muted? No, it says I'm off. It says I'm off. Okay, I should still be good. Let me know if I'm still muted. Let me know if I'm still muted. I think I'm good. Anyway, so yeah, I think I'm good. Not seeing any comment coming through. You're good. Okay, good. Yeah. So this idea then that the job of president and the description of the job as leader of the free world. So here's what I see, right? You get Kamala Harris, who I don't think can be a viable second candidate. If you remove Joe right now because of his degradation and she becomes the president, she's going to have to be an incumbent and gets the nomination to run in 2024, which you can't have. They can't have that, right? They need someone else like Gavin or who knows. But the idea here that the rock and a hard place they find themselves in is you can't remove Biden, but removing him, so keeping him there is bad. Removing him is worse. Imagine removing him is worse, right? So suddenly, when you think of this buck stops here with the president, well, the job has now ended. It's over, right? There's no one in the role. That we don't have a president. We have nothing like a president. It's clear it's a sock puppet or whatever you want to call it. But the idea that the president is still the leader of the free world is laughably stupid. And that couldn't be a better scenario for Bitcoiners, because here's, Trump yesterday talking with Kudlow on Fox about what's going on with the US dollar and all of these things, right? And the president said it straight up. President Trump warns that the US dollar is losing its dominance as the world's reserve currency, right? And that's what you kind of see. So you look at the Democrats stuck in this position, right? They can't really speak softly and carry a big stick. It's more like speak loudly, incoherently with what kind of stick, we don't know. So the whole idea of American foreign policy, and this one was invented by Teddy Roosevelt, of course, right? He was the first to say, speak quietly or softly or something and carry a big stick, right? As the American way of conducting itself abroad. That's completely gone. Now it's this, it's pointing, it's accusing everyone. It's the blinking, like what are the signs that you're quiet quitting, right? You're nervous, you're blinking, you're yelling, right? You're yelling, you're blinking. Right, that's what we're left with. We're left with yellins and blinkins, showing no confidence in the work they're doing. Right, Yellen is still laughing and cackling about her mushroom experience in China, where she was ignored, where it didn't matter, and the whole thing looked embarrassing. Right, and so now here's one prediction. Right, here's one prediction. So if I'm right about this scenario, Biden's mental faculties are screwed up. And the ability of Kamala Harris to take over is even worse than the current situation of Biden. So what do you, and so she's not a viable candidate. So if this 100% speculative scenario that I'm telling you about, 100% speculative, this is coming from, what I think and what I see other people thinking too. It's not, I'm not alone in this, but there's a lot of people who think this way. So what I imagine is going to have to happen, confirmation of it would require this, a prediction that attack ads are coming out on Kamala soon in order to immobilize her little fiefdom that she's trying to put together within the Democrat Party. So if you do see some credible attack ads coming from the mainstream media, what would otherwise look like friendly fire, it's because what I'm saying right now is true, right? That she's not a viable candidate, and they have to do everything they can to keep her away from getting the presidency now, because of Article 25, that the one where they say the president is incapacitated. So if that happens, or if he's impeached, or if he just has to step down because of his health trouble, having her in that position, now it might be what they are forced to do, right? It might, that's the wild card. We don't know the condition of Biden's brain. It looks really bad. It looks not capable, right? Which is, again, perfect. Watching him just be completely unaware and incapable. Somewhere in his mind, he knows how much he's failing, I think. There's enough cognition left to know what you can't do. I just hope that he can see the bridge and is just sitting there wishing he had his strength back and all that stuff. That pleases me, right? I do get some pleasure out of watching the type of hell that has been created for him, right? You get what you want. You're the president, but you lose all of your ability to do the job. Like amputating the president to the point where he's got to be amputating his brain, all, you know, the shuffle, the dementia shuffle, all of it makes the quiet quitting frame apt, right? The job is empty. We don't have a president, right? Which is, I think, good. So the Chinese, of course, and if you think about what Trump said, right, about the dollar losing its significance as the world's currency, what's going on in China now, I think will really help put that into perspective, that the job of the US president, the capacity of the president, and this ability to keep the dollar in its prime position in the world are receding together. And what did the Chinese president say about it? So it turns out this is from William Middlecoop, who will be in the spaces with me and Dylan Leclerc at the top of this hour. So here's him confirming that Xi will attend the BRICS summit in South Africa. But he also added, Xi, yesterday, a few points on the actual economic problems going on in China. So we've spoken about these economic troubles before, right? Now, always be careful. American perceptions of what's going on in China are absolutely filled with spin and propaganda, right? But we know this. We know that the shadow banking sector was overextended into real estate, right? So the real estate thing is now hitting the shadow banking sector in China. They've had to raise interest rates in order to help spur liquidity and demand in the economy, right? So all of this stuff is happening. Meanwhile, the Communist Party is starting to show signs that it's losing grip, or at least is having stress about it. And here's what Jonathan Cheng in the Wall Street Journal is saying. And he's quoting something that Xi said about trying to staunch his own economic troubles in China. It says the following: Chinese leader Xi Jinping has called for patience in a speech released as the ruling Communist Party tries to reverse a deepening economic slump, and said Western countries are increasingly in trouble. And here's the kicker, right? Because of their materialism and spiritual poverty, right? And he says, today, Western countries are increasingly in trouble. They cannot curb the greedy nature of capital and cannot solve the chronic diseases such as materialism and spiritual poverty. Those were his exact quotes. Now, that the Chinese leader, in the context of World War III, which we understand to be, if you follow the breakup enough, right, our actual battlefield in World War III is an economic and psychological war. Right. We've been saying that is what we're talking about here. That's why we call it the breakup, because we're in a relationship with money and an economic system, and that breaking up with that means letting go of a lot of, you know, castles that you've built in your mind and predictions you've made and projections into the future based on the current system. That stuff's hard to let go. It looks and feels a lot like a breakup or a divorce or one of these things, right? Where the future you thought and you'd always believed was there can't be there. So you have to re-architect and redesign that future. And Xi, I think, has accurately seen the battlefield here of World War III. He's calling it exactly what it is. It is a materialist, spiritual war, right? And I think that's very comfortable footing for Bitcoiners, right? That is exactly what we've been saying, right? That the spiritual vacuousness that came from debt as money has reached into the world of materialism. It's reached into our time preference. It's reached into our ability to hold people to account and have strong institutions, all of it because the feedback loop was broken, because materialism and exactly what he's saying here, the spiritual void, right? The hole in people's hearts that's been created by overeating and materialist consumption of all kinds of things, which was probably a great thing for a while for America to have. But like all things, right? Like all systems that were created in World War II, those systems are now completely corrupted. All of them, right? Science, media, all of these systems are corrupted. And the common denominator within all of their corruption is the breaking of money and the lack of feedback loop you have when you create fiat systems and you create this absolutely, psychological commodity that has actual no shape or form. It's just these abstract ideas now, right? And it is really just raw power and dictates, which are hidden in the word fiat, right? Declaration as money. So when you start thinking about the terms that G is saying here, spiritual and materialist war, it's very similar to what we recognize, right? And that's why, with our ability to predict, right, Bitcoiners' ability to predict things and not have to go back and change our idea every time we predict something, because we've been saying that we're in a spiritual and economic war since Satoshi got started, right? We're not changing our script at all. We're in the same fight we've been in for 13, 14 years now. Nothing has changed. On the other end, right, you get this political system, which continues to be completely schizophrenic and incapable of moving forward, because the point of this high time preference, outrage, media, brainwash politics system is that you have to constantly change your point of view and your footing and your position. And the one that makes the most sense is this impeachment about the electoral college, right? So everyone bringing up the hypocrisy, right? And remember, trying to keep hypocritical ideas in your head causes cognitive dissonance. It is cognitive dissonance, right? So when you see all of the mainstream media pushing people to say, oh, Trump was trying to cheat because of the electoral college, remember, they had to believe the opposite 6 years ago. And Cernovich points that out here, right? CNN in 2016, America needs 37 faithless electors from states Trump won to do his job in order to drop him below the 270 threshold and block him from automatically winning the White House. The election would be determined by the House of Representatives, which has a constitutional right to pick another candidate. The election would be determined by the House of Representatives, of course. And so here's a CNN article that actually quotes Podesta. Remember, we were talking about Podesta yesterday because they brought him back out for the Hawaii thing, where he was the one saying, oh, it's global warming, right? We hadn't heard of him since Pizzagate and here, right? Where he was the one trying to spearhead this electoral college thing. Exactly what they're trying to impeach and arrest Trump for his fourth impeachment and arrest, right? Now, again, remember this idea, again, that the president, and the buck stops with the president, and literally the buck stops with the president, and authority, direction, and everything we understand about the U.S. justice system and the U.S. legal system, which has been thrown out in order to protect Hunter, and to continue this charade of what happened on, for the January sick people to be able to continue to keep their worldview intact and not have it threatened by the reality encroaching that they are experiencing cognitive dissonance, and they have to hold diametrically oppositional points of view if they want to look at the 2016 and 2020 election, right? You have to believe at once it was okay to use the electoral college, and then at once it wasn't okay, right? And now you get, we're getting pictures to the Gateway Pundit publishing pictures of January 6 defendants looking like political prisoners, like, sleeping on a little mat, looking cold. Marjorie Taylor Greene sharing the images. We don't know if they're true, but she says, this is proof of blatant human rights abuse and is wrong on every level. I'm currently looking into all means possible to stop the abuse. And you should see these pictures. I mean, you just see American people sitting in the shitty prisons for January 6 sick people, right? For this January sick people. Now, the censorship that comes along with having this stuff happen, you can see it all around the situation in you can see it in the situation in Hawaii, as I said. You can see it in the situation that we're seeing with the Ukrainian bioweapons and all that stuff that RFK talked about, right? And that's why, and even this idea of handling the truth, right? Being able to handle the truth. You saw Vivek yesterday. So now Tucker did another interview yesterday with Vivek. I never realized I've been saying his name wrong this whole time. Vivek. All right, it's Vivek, not Vivek. Vivek. So Vivek was on yesterday with Tucker, and that's one day after RFK had him on, or that he had RFK on, that Tucker had RFK on. And this episode, they talked all about whether people are ready to handle the truth, and that was what Vivek was saying, right? That what the real political lines that are drawn in America are those that can handle the truth and those that can't handle the truth. And again, that is exactly what. So now Vivek is saying the truth as a policy objective, or as a guidepost for what he'll do as president. If you recall, that's exactly what RFK said as well, right? Just say the truth. My path to victory, RFK has said it before, is to just tell the truth, right? If I can tell the truth, Americans are sick of being lied to. That's what's keeping Americans apart. If I tell them the truth, they can handle the truth. And so both Vivek and RFK both talking about this handling the truth and not getting spun by these lies, right? So and even Elon coming in and saying, great stuff, this candidate looks promising. Now Elon, of course, right? Elon, one of the things I was going to say yesterday when we were talking about what are the worries that we have about the other side doing crazy things at the end, and I said I don't really worry about it, right? I think this is the best they have. This is all they've got left. And here's what I wanted to continue to say, and I think this, and I'll quote Cernovich here too, because he has a great quote about this. So the thing that I see when I'm confronted with that conflict, right, is it going to be these people, and what are the death pangs going to look like, and how are they going to defend the system, and what are they going to do, and what can we do on the other side? Are you worried about other crazy things that can happen, right? If they're willing to release COVID in order to scam an election, if you believe that story, right? If they're willing to release COVID in order to scam an election, like, what are they capable of, right? No, they're capable of a lot of crazy things, no doubt about it. But what I continue to come back to is who is more equipped and armed in order to win World War III. And I go back to the idea of NPCs and main character energy, and what are the tools in the end that will really get you over the line to win World War III. In the end, I look at the tools that will help you win, and I look at the tools Bitcoiners have, right? Psychological resilience. Look, Bitcoin's down 10% today. I don't give a shit. I'm sitting there saying, great, cheap sats. I wish I had cash, right? I wish I had some cash, but it looks like an opportunity. And when I make that contrast, and when I think about who could win in these fights, I mostly think of it in terms of like the conquistadors in the old, when they arrived in old Mexico. And what was it? 100 and something conquistadors destroyed the greatest army that the Aztecs had built. It was like our Montezuma's people, right? I don't remember who they were, but it was like a 15,000 person army, right? And 100 and something people wiped them out because the weapons were so much better. If you're on horseback and you have a iron sword, and they've got wood, and you're just driving around stabbing people, you can run games where 100 people easily destroy 15,000. It could get worse, right? It can get worse. And so when I think of things in those terms, right, when I think of who's on the one side in World War III and who's on the other side, and should I be afraid of any more craziness? Well, look at how crazy Montezuma's people were, right? They cooked. Did you know they cooked a vegetarian chili before they went out to meet the conquistadors? Because the plan was, right? The plan was bring the bodies back and put them in the chili, right? You knew that? That was the plan, right? The plan was to put the bodies into the vegetarian chili they had made. And it was going to be a big war feast after, right? It didn't work out. It's the old Mike Tyson line, right? Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face, right? Everybody's got a plan. Everyone's got a great idea. And then Mike Tyson does the peekaboo and rocks your face, and you're done. Your plan's over, right? And that's what happened to Montezuma when he went after Cortez and went out to meet him in a field of battle. And indeed, 100 people, 100 and something. It wasn't many. And the conquistadors were worried. They saw the size. Cortez had to burn the ships in order to make sure they fought. I think, right? I might be getting that wrong. But the idea that the small army could change the world so greatly in the Americas is really what we're dealing with here. Now, I understand Elon, sold some Bitcoin or something, and Some people are saying it had been sold a long time ago. I think I have the quote here about what's going on with Elon's Bitcoin. And it comes from, let me get it. So it looks like Elon sold it. This person here is showing how the sale went. This is from Joran Blokland, who is a speaker at Bitcoin Amsterdam. Right? He's a speaker. He says, follow up on the SpaceX Bitcoin article in the Wall Street Journal. Some phrases. The documents also show that SpaceX wrote down the value of the Bitcoin it owns by a total of $373 million last year. And in 2021 sold the cryptocurrency. This leaves various interpretations. Did it sell Bitcoin just recently? But we don't know. And he says, my impression is that the Wall Street Journal did not mean to suggest that SpaceX sold Bitcoin recently, but that writing down and selling previously significantly impacted SpaceX's finance, right? So that's what he's saying, because we don't really know all the details. But here's the thing, right? Elon sold Bitcoin. He simultaneously, right, also did things like community notes. Did you see that Blinken tried to say, oh, we want Pakistan to have free and open elections and freedom and democracy and all this stuff. And then the community note said, but you took it away by pushing a situation there. What was it again here? This is what he says. Blinken, right, says, congratulations to new Pakistan interim prime minister Anwar Kakar, as Pakistan prepares for free and fair elections in accordance with its constitution and the rights to freedom of speech and assembly, we will continue to advance our shared commitment to economic prosperity. And the community notes comes in and says, the U.S. State Department under Anthony Blinken on March 7th encouraged the removal of Pakistan's previously democratically elected Prime Minister Imran Khan. In April 2022, Imran Khan was removed and arrested. I'm surprised they didn't put another community note in there saying what's going on with Trump. But here's the point, right? That we're in a war, right? It is psychological. It is economic. Things like SpaceX, right? Did you see yesterday that 80% of the tonnage in space is from Elon? 80% of the tonnage in space is from Elon, right? China has like 10%. America has, whatever. But it's almost all Elon, and it's his satellites and his other stuff, right? So although he's there selling Bitcoin, right, he's still involved in our side of the psychological and economic war that we're engaging in. So the Bitcoin that he holds, while nice, right, and it confirms he's on the Bitcoin team, the line of World War III is a little more complicated than that, and it's okay if not everyone's in it, because here again is where we're headed and why we're going to win. And this comes from Cernovich, right? So Cernovich says the following, right? And this is in someone trying to, I guess, talk about his role in moving conservative politics. But what I'm going to say is he's moving politics, not conservative or liberal. He moved politics into a contrast that's helpful for Bitcoin and Bitcoin adoption. Here's what he says, right? So he says, can we be honest without myself sounding like a complete jerk? LOL, I don't really care. Let's talk reality. Until 2015, conservatives were dorks and goobers. Social media destroyed the illusion because you could see how Rich Lowry looked. Nothing, just a nothing presence. All of the cool people were doing other stuff. Imagine carrying water for Mitt Romney or John McCain. Ridiculous. Trump announced, and then people like me got involved. We steamrolled the cucks in conservatism, just utterly humiliated them daily, to the point that many have PTSD and regularly undermine me in their passive-aggressive ways. It's only been 8 years since 2015. As the right, not conservatism, grew, talent has been incubated. People like me cross-pollinated gym bro and hot guy and hot girl culture to politics. No one did this before me. People take it for granted that the right is now synonymous with health and wellness. Go back to 2015. What conservative was pushing this alignment? It takes time, but the soil is fertile. The seeds are planted, and great men and women of history will arise. Now, again, the real balance that he's talking about here, right, the dichotomy is now actually between health and wealth and being a poor, have fun staying poor, unhealthy, mentally disturbed person, right? That's why the battlefield indeed is health and wealth. And it's a psychological war based on your ability to be rich, which means materialism itself is counter to the war effort, right? Because spending all of your money and not saving money isn't going to help you be free at all. It's not going to help you participate in World War III, which is why Bitcoin is so interesting, because people who save in Bitcoin and offload that neurological cognitive load to something simple end up doing a lot better and have over time. And like he said, the soil has been fertile for us to grow, which is how we end up in a position where it really will be 100 conquistadors. It's 100. It doesn't take more than that are going to be able to wipe out all of this psychological warfare and all of these parasites and all of these people who are just living in the past. Now, we've got a ton of cognitive dissonance to cut through. We've got a ton of hypnosis to cut through. We've got a ton of illusions to dispel. But every day is getting closer. Every day is looking more and more like the actual fault lines of the war are becoming apparent to everyone. That we are indeed in a spiritual war, as Xi said, right? As Xi said. Now, the good news for Bitcoin is you get Xi going to South Africa to talk about this. Again, we predict the BRICS 2 shitcoin, that dog ain't gonna hunt, which is amazing because everyone is out there putting this point of view forward, putting this fault line forward, right? Psychological and economic war. And Bitcoiners have been fighting this for 13 years already, right? This is new to the leader of the free world and Xi. It's not new to Bitcoiners. So we have an incredible advantage in this fight. And it looks like the actual battlefield of World War III is perfect. And that's why having the leader of the free world quiet quitting the way he is so on brand. It's such a fiat thing to do, quiet quit. You know what I mean? And he quiet quit because it's over. We can tell it's over, right? So what are they going to do? It doesn't really matter. We're conquistadors. It doesn't matter. Whatever they throw at us next, it's going to be more Hunter Biden gets a sweetheart deal. Now crazy shit can happen, but we're going to get through it. Could they do more than unleashing a virus on the world? Maybe. We'll find out. But remember, as long as we stay healthy and wealthy, we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. All right. I'm going to have to cut it short. Let me get to some of the comments. And then I got to go do a Spaces. Will he really push Doge on X? I believe so, Nick. Yeah, I believe he will. Yeah, I don't expect no Doge. I'm not an anti-Doge guy, by the way. I've always been, the reason I like Doge is because I made a lot of people rich off of it. I told everyone in like 2015, 2016, and early Bitcoin evangelism, I always believe the faucets were one of the best onboarding things. So when I was at CoinDesk, I argued for a long time that I would create a wallet. The biggest wallet in the world is what I used to tell people when I worked with CoinDesk, that I would make the biggest wallet on earth the world has ever known. And it wasn't for savings. It wasn't for anything. It was so that people wouldn't be afraid to lose money, lose coins, lose cryptocurrencies, so that they could one day become self-custodian Bitcoin people. So my wallet at CoinDesk was never for your Bitcoin. It was literally to give you free shit so that you didn't worry about losing it and this and that, right? We would just airdrop coupons, more or less. I was going to bring back coupons to the newspaper. And the coupons would be our sponsorship activities. And it wouldn't matter if you lost it, it was like 10% off, just stuff like that, right? So when I was, we did release a wallet at CoinDesk, and it ended up turning into Deskcoin over time, which I was involved, was involved in. And Deskcoin, obviously, there's no, you can't get rich off of it. And we're not trying to compete with Bitcoin. It was exactly what it sounds like. It was a loyalty points scheme to get people to go into rooms at our events and get people to consume content, be able to get people to come to marketing events and things like that. So just basically rewarding people's behavior in an app where people can read the news. So, but I'm still believe that a media company could build a wallet in order to test things out. And that's why I like Doge, because the Doge faucets were still running for years. And anyone who said, I don't know about Bitcoin, I just say, go play around with Doge, just go play with it. So, how many people over the years when Elon jumped into Doge said, Nolan, I found my Doge, wow, I don't know, I had so many, right? So I can't help but still have a place in my heart for Doge because it was never trying to compete with Bitcoin, right? It's not trying to be the psychological engine of an economy. It's just a fun little coin. I don't care, right? I'm not stressed out about Dogecoin. It's a different scenario than Ethereum and some of the other ones, right? So, but I get, and I always had a lot of appreciation for the war, which I recognized Elon was in against the SEC. So any fuckery he did with the SEC, I'm always for it, right? You don't play the SEC straight. Like you know, you clown around, you try and do some fun stuff, because if you play it straight, you're going to be screwed, right? So there you go. Habib, thanks, man. Love the breakup show. Thanks, Habib. Thanks, Habib. We love it, man. Has anyone made an app or program to scan old hard drives for crypto wallets? That's a great idea, Dan. I don't think so. I don't know, but you know, like I said, I lost most of my Doge over the years. I would fuck around with. I never took it seriously enough, so I was pretty pissed when it pumped. I found some, but I was so liberal with my Doge over time because like I said, I thought of it as a test net for many, many years. I had no idea it was ever going to go up in the way it did, obviously. But no big deal, right? Tommy BTFD. There you go. Make sure to share the show. Indeed, CK. Thanks for reminding everyone. What's up, Catacombs? Good morning, Bitcoiners. Thomas, letting us all. We need it stronger. I had to go out and buy new coffee. I didn't even have coffee on a market down day. I was like, what the heck? I didn't check any of the prices last night and was very surprised to see things this morning. So there you go. All right, team. Yeah, what is congrats on the retirement for Joe. Yeah. I'm going to go switch the quiet quitting thing. Unfortunately, Twitter doesn't let me read to fix headlines like this that I pipe in, but I can switch it on Rumble and YouTube. Quit quitting. Damn it. It was such a clever headline. I loved it. All right, team. So who's the spaces on? Daniel asked me. It is with William Middlecoop, who I just mentioned, who was talking about the BRICS meeting, and Dylan LeClaire from our own Bitcoin Magazine. And I will, Daniel, because I haven't spoken to Dylan. He's been in Europe all summer. I don't know if he's back yet. He went with his friends to Europe and rented a place in Spain not long after the Bitcoin show in Miami. So I promised you, Daniel, that we would get our Vermont Bitcoin meetup going, but I would only do it when Dylan and gang were back. They should be back soon, and I will talk Dylan in the spaces about the Vermont meetup, because we got to get on the meetup schedule. I think Burlington would be a great meetup town, and I will definitely be there. All right, team. Peace. See ya at the top of the hour if you're going to make it.